I'm not sure how long this one will be. I've heard of this case a few times. It's the case of Charles Starkweather and his girlfriend at the time, Caril and Fugate. They, and particularly he, but we'll get into that and see what you think about Caril. But he was an American spree killer who murdered 11 people in Nebraska and Wyoming in about a month's time, roughly, when he was 19 years old. 10 of the 11 were in about a week-long span, which, he stopped the day he was arrested. That's why he stopped. He would have kept going. And he was 19, and the girl he was dating was 14. So yes, she was a girl. But that was more commonplace back then. Didn't say it was right. I said it was more common. Because this was back in the 50s. Late 50s, but still the 50s. They, both Charles Starkweather and Caril Ann Fugate were convicted. I've heard it Fugate and I've heard it Fugate, so I'll probably say both just to be honest. They were both convicted for their parts in the homicide. Charles was sentenced to death and executed 17 months after the events, so about a year and a half later. Fugate served 17 years in prison. Charles was executed by electric chair in 1959. It was the last execution in Nebraska until 1994. Just a little aside. I don't know why I even mentioned that really, but a little fun fact, because that's what, right at 35 years. The case has been analyzed by a lot of different psychologists and criminologists and psychiatrists and all that to try and understand spree killers better. It's keep in mind there was no internet, not even some whole families didn't even have TV yet. TV was new, so it was rare for cases to hit national prominence, but this one did. There were a few other cases before it, but for 1959 it rarely happened. Charles Starkweather, which is who I'm going to focus mostly on, was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was a middle child, basically, of 7, which is a big family, but it was common back then. He was born in the late 30s, about the same time my dad was, and he was the 7th of 8, I think. There was definitely 8, but anyway, so that was common back then. The Starkweathers were a working class family. Basically both families worked, especially since his dad had health issues, but he still worked when he could, and so yeah, but they struggled. I won't get into a whole lot of it. He had a few birth defects, like his legs were misshapen, and he had a speech impediment, and this caused him to be teased and bullied at school. When he got older, he he was really good in the gym, and it was an outlet for him for all his pent-up rage, basically, for being bullied and everything. And then he became the bully against those who had bullied him. And eventually he got to where if he disliked you, he was rageful and just hated you, like there was no black and white. And he went from being one of the most well-behaved teenagers in the community to just the opposite. He was one of the most troubled and was causing trouble. A lot of people said he could be the kindest person you've ever seen if he liked you. But, and he was a lot of fun to be around. But if he got to where he didn't like you, he could be cruel, just plain cruel. And sometimes it was just that he perceived you were better looking or better dressed or had more money or whatever. Or bigger than him or whatever. It would cause him to have violent outbursts. And his family, including his parents, were even afraid of him. At the time, in 1956, he was 18, and he was introduced to Caril. Charles was introduced to 13-year-old Caril in Fugate. And he dropped out of high school in his senior year and took a job at a newspaper warehouse because he wanted to earn money, and it was also near Fugate School, and he visited her every day after school. He taught her how to drive. He quit his warehouse job and became a garbage collector. He became angry at Robert Colbert, a surface station attendant in Lincoln, because he wouldn't sell him a stuffed animal on credit. He returned several times to purchase small items until he finally brought out a shotgun and forced Colbert to give him $100 from the till. He drove Colbert to a remote area where they struggled over the gun, injuring Colbert before Starkweather killed him with several shots. He then went on a murder spree in January 21st, 1958. So, a little less than 2 months. He went to Fugate's home. Fugate's mother and stepfather told him to stay away. They didn't want him hanging around his daughter. And I know it's hard to believe this winter they wouldn't want this winter to hang around their daughter. And of course I'm saying that in jest, but I'm sure that's what he thought. He shot them and clubbed them to death, and even killed their 2-year-old daughter. which, why would you kill a 2-year-old? But anyway, or the parents for that matter, but especially the 2-year-old. You know what I'm saying? That to me is even more heinous. Um, 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 Caroline's, Fugate's grandmother was suspicious and called the police. And so they arrived on January 27th, so almost a whole week they had lived in that house. He buried the bodies out behind the house. And there's contradicting stories. At first he said that Carol Ann didn't know that it was before she arrived that he had done it, and he told her that he was holding them hostage. But then later he said that she knew and she was more involved. So you make up your own mind on what you think. Personally, I think she was more involved, but also I think she was young and so I think she should have been punished, but I don't think she should have got a life or the death penalty or anything like that. I think I said before that she served like 30 years or something, 20 or 30 years, but I think that's more fair, but I do think he should have got the death penalty. And I'm 99% of the time I'm against the death penalty, but in cases like this, I'd pull the switch myself. You know what I'm saying? So, they drove to the farmhouse of someone else, one of her family friends, who lived in Bennett, Nebraska. I'm not sure how far away that is from Lincoln, but it couldn't be too far because it's part of the metropolitan statistical area, so it couldn't be too far away. Basically, Charles Starkweather killed him with a shotgun blast to the head and even killed his dog. Wish they could have killed him more than once, to be honest. I'm probably going to get heated by the end of this, but they fled the area because they didn't want to get caught by the law, obviously. They killed 2 more people, 2 teenagers this time, because they stopped to give them a ride, and they made them drive to an abandoned area that they knew about that was in Bennett, and then he killed them, and he even tried to have non-consensual sexual relations with the woman. Trying to be careful with YouTube. He became angry with her and killed her as well with a gunshot. And they just killed a lot of people. It's bothering me to even talk about it, and I've got a pretty good, I can handle cases like this, but you get the idea. They killed a lot of people. Um, uh, at the trial, they he he chose to go back to Nebraska from Wyoming because some of the murders were in Wyoming. So, but he they knew that he knew that either state would execute him, and who could blame him? Um, but and at first he said he kidnapped her and that she had nothing to do with the murders, but there's evidence that that's not true. And I do believe she was a willing participant, but I also don't think she should have got life in prison or um, um, death because of her age. And I don't think she would have done it without him. If she had just done it all on her own, I would feel different, no matter her age, especially since she was like 14 or something. And now if she was 7, I would feel different again, because I don't think, if you're 6 or 7, I don't think you really know what you're doing necessarily, except for in a few cases that I've heard of. But even then, your brain's not fully developed. But we won't get into all that. But she's always maintained that he held her hostage and was threatening to kill her family, and she didn't know they were already dead. But wouldn't you have questions about why you hadn't seen them in 6 days? That don't make no sense. To me, it don't. The judge didn't believe her, and he said that she had had numerous opportunities to escape, and I agree with that. Although she may have been too afraid to, but I think that she was at least partly responsible. When he was taken to and basically he also thought that if he was going to be executed, then Fugate should be also. So you've got to take what he says with a grain of salt. But I at least partly believe that she was partly responsible, I should say, but not totally responsible. Not as responsible as him, because he was older, he was mean, he was a bully to people. She was probably scared of him, but she still shouldn't have went along. Because I can tell you right now, I don't care how scared I am of you. If you go to hurt my family, we're going to have issues. And I'm not going to be on your side, and I'm not going to pretend to be on your side. And he got the death penalty. And he was executed June 25th, 1959. She was convicted as an accomplice and received a life sentence, which I've already said I think is too long in this particular case. But she wound up only serving 17 and a half years. I think that's a little less than I would have liked to have seen. Preferably 20 to 30 years, minimum 20, but 17 and a half is quite a bit for someone so young too. And apparently she's still alive. Um, um, but she was seriously injured a few years ago. Um, her husband, they were in a sport utility vehicle, a SUV, her and her husband, when it uh, overturned, and he died at the scene, and she was seriously injured. Um, Something interesting that I didn't know. Apparently, a lot of the murder victims' families think she should get a pardon, um, which she has not been able to receive. Um, she maintains her innocence even now. Um, she doesn't like being noted as a convicted killer. Don't kill people then. Sorry. Her pardon was denied. Um, um, because the role of a pardon is to restore felons' rights, not to absolve them of crimes, which I also didn't know that. But she is 78 years old. So she's lived longer than most of her victims, I would dare say, because she was 14 and she served 17 and a half years. That would make it, she was probably about 32 when she got out, so she's lived 45, 46 years, somewhere in that range, out of prison. So she was released in 76, so that's at least 45 years, depending on when she was released, possibly longer, because I haven't seen a date inside. Just don't remember. I'm a little out of it because I have done like 4 videos today. 3 of them were short and about frugality and of some sort, because y'all know I do those videos too. But I wanted to do a deep dive, and so here it is. Not really a deep dive, because trust me, this case could easily go an hour to 2 hours long. I've heard several YouTubers go that long on this case. But this is going to be less than 25 minutes, so I'm happy with that. I try and keep them around 20 minutes, the true crime ones, but if it reaches 30 minutes, that's okay, but no longer than that, because it's just too hard for me. You notice I lose concentration and get confused and stuff, but I hope y'all found my videos interesting and watch them, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, or a wonderful day if this is morning for you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll get notifications. Make sure and set it to all. That way you will get every video that I put out, because I put out 4 a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday one week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday the next week, and alternating back and forth. So, but it makes it to where I put out 4 videos a week, and I think that's practical. But please comment, share if you like these, like, do all the things I'm supposed to ask you to do at the end of every video. And with that said, I will keep recording these, and hopefully my audience will grow, even if it's just a few subscribers a month. I think I'm up to 15 right now, which, considering I just started making videos, is pretty good. But anyway, with that said, bye.